Hello, my name is Ethan George. I'm representing Team 53 for our DP2 video report. So starting with the general agenda breakdown of the presentation, we have the 5 main topics that you asked us to report on, starting with our fundamental topics, functional decomposition, concept generation, our gallery method, and the feedback from the gallery method, and then our final concept solution. So moving into the kind of DP1 material, we have our mission statement. Our product, the Plug and Power, hopes to provide free, convenient, varied charging solutions to all the students on campus that use a multitude of devices every day and require it to get work done for school. So moving on to the general customer profile, we have a sort of general student who is really busy, really active, and sometimes forgetful. Sometimes they don't charge their laptop when they're on campus too long and they forgot the charger at home. So in order to get work done, they would require access to the specific charger for their device. As students, we run into this issue very often, and we thought a product like this would be great for people who run into this issue often. So moving into a general use case, you're a student, you're working on homework, you're trying to get assignments done, you notice your laptop is running out of juice, but you're still on campus for another 2-3 hours because you're a commuter and you have class. So you go up to one of our products, one of our devices, you input the exact charger you need, it dispenses, you use it, and then you return it at your convenience. Just a general use case for a product like this. Moving into our customer needs, we had our customer survey and also what we personally wanted to see from a product like this. If we were one of these students on campus using it, what would we want to see? So things like, relatively close by with varied locations, so having them all over campus, very useful. You won't have to walk across campus just to get a charger. Free was one of the biggest things. As students, we're not trying to spend extra money. We take out a lot of debt in order to be here, and so we're not trying to, hurt that even more by just charging our laptops. And other things like very charger, reliable, easy to use, quick to use, things like that. And then finally, from the DP1 material, we have our technical specifications, just general things like how fast it charges, or the length of the cords, or how quick it is to use, the mass of the system itself in kilograms with our specific target values here. So we want phones and laptops to charge at different amounts. We want the system to be less than 50 kilograms for maintenance and use cases. We want chargers to be long enough to comfortably sit on campus. So moving into our functional decomposition here, we have the overarching goal of providing charging access. This breaks down into kind of 5 main functions in order to achieve this goal, starting with the authenticating the user, dispensing the charger themselves, supplying the system, the actual dispenser, accepting returning chargers, and maintaining the system. So to authenticate the user, we thought of a number of ideas, like a hokey passport, or maybe like an app verification, or things like that, anything to verify the student and their order. Next, for the dispensing charger, we had to think of a way to provide the students with chargers themselves. So again, maybe a built-in dispenser, maybe you go to a separate location to pick it up, maybe it's mailed to you, any sort of way to dispense the charger itself. Supplying the system with power, this could be solar, this could be direct power supply, this could be a battery, this could be manual power like a hand crank, which we explored. Accepting return itself, this again could be varied in a lot of ways. You could mail it in, you could return it to the campus library or a separate facility, or you could just return it to the dispenser itself if we built that in. And then maintaining the system, we want it to be easy to restock, easy for the owner / vendor, potentially Virginia Tech in this case, to kind of check and make sure it's working, restock the chargers, keep it functioning. Moving into the energy and signal flow here, we just have the general inputs. For this example, we went with wall power, a card swipe / touchscreen interface for the actual input to select the charger, and then for our outputs, if we had like a built-in dispenser, built-in charger, but again, it would be an output anyway, even if it was a separate dispenser. But yeah, you would be outputting the charger, or returning the charger, or the actual information that the students input, maybe keeping them on record for future uses. So moving into the full concept combination table, we took all of the ideas we had and put them into our table here. Again, for power delivery, interface, and return, we wanted to have a variety of answers, things that we wanted to think about would be the most convenient, easy to use for students, and receive feedback on as many of these options as possible. So again, we do have the hand crank, we do have the solar panel, we have the mail-in, we have the built-in return, we added email, we added shipping to you, things like that. So the way we kind of came up with these to begin with was the 3-2-1 method. We started with our initial ideas, just any sort of number of things. We sat down, really just thought about any possible solution to these functions, and then we started to narrow it down with the stronger concepts. We realized solar panel probably wasn't as strong, it went up the cost, and it's just easier to maintain if it is direct power, wall power, things like that. And then we moved into our final design where we selected, a card swipe, a dispensing charge, the dispenser and the return built into the machine itself, things like that. But before this, we each had our own sub-functions that we had to do for the assignment. Moving into the gallery method here, this is just the general gallery method of our favorite solution that we selected later on. So we have that direct power, built-in dispenser, built-in return, and like the card swipe. We wanted to make it easy to read, immediately noticeable, like what we are, what we're trying to do, have a kind of visual representation for what our final solution would be, and of the concept combination table, we wanted to make sure each of our selections were very clear. We did receive feedback on our gallery method, our FEMA, our mock-up, things like that. We did receive both 10 out of 10s for these feedbacks, but they had a lot of useful information for formatting or what they wanted to see maybe improved customer needs that we didn't consider. Very useful stuff, especially here in the notes. So moving to the actual concept selection screening, as a group, once we all explored our own solutions, we wanted to talk about what we specifically liked, what we wanted to see from a product like this, what made more sense, and maybe again other alternative ideas that we didn't consider, like actually partnering with the library to have library-specific returns, because students are in there all the time, they require charges in there all the time. Seemed like it makes sense. We also realized, again, that solar panel, that hand crank doesn't really functionally make sense, and was just the result of high idea generation. Finally, that kind of resulted in our exhibit screening, where we took each of our function or solutions and then ranked them amongst each other. So we have, my two and the teammates two, each kind of spelled out here. One of mine was, battery, separate pickup, touchscreen, and a separate offsite pickup. I didn't personally like this because having to go to a separate location to pick up the charger felt kind of like extra steps, not as easy to use. It required a lot of extra time and resource on my end. Didn't really make sense. So we landed on Luciano's first solution with a built-in power supply, that built-in dispenser, these solutions that I mentioned on the gallery method a couple slides ago. So finally, to make sure we were competitively viable, we wanted to compare it to other solutions already here on campus. So for the plug and power, our product specifically, we check all of these boxes that we wanted, assuming we're provided by the campus, free to use, secured by the campus with variety chargers, things that we considered. The Newman, built-in wall dispensers, or not dispensers, chargers stations. They are built into the wall. You can't move them with you. It requires you to leave your device there. It's very limiting in a lot of ways. You can't actively work or use the device while it's charging, so we didn't really like that, and we do believe we exceed this product. There's also the existing battery charging dispensers on campus. A lot of students don't really know what these are, but you'll see them around like at gyms or libraries. It's like the little battery packs that you have to rent, and that is the biggest reason why they're not used. They cost money. And again, like I said, as students, we are looking to save as much money as possible. We're actively taking out debt to be here, and this is the biggest drawback from this product, and that's why no one uses it. So again, our product hopes to kind of overcome this obstacle and get students actually using our product and benefiting from it. So with all this in mind, we came up with that final concept, kind of building off of those 4 solutions in the gallery method. We still have that direct supply. We have that built-in dispenser, but again, we hope to kind of update it, kind of make it more stylistically improved, more compatible with chargers themselves, and it doesn't really fit well with a return, so we're trying to think of a way to merge the dispensing and return process, along with combining a lot of our interfaces. We wanted to have the card swipe, we wanted to have the app, we wanted to have the manual button input, just for variety, for customer use, to make it easy for them. It just made the most sense to include all of them. So yeah, that is our final concept, and that is the DP2 report. Thank you.